Hello, you're on Startup Club, and we have an amazing conversation today. It's all about the AI arms race. So, who will make it and who will be roadkill? Let's just say who won't make it.
AI is transformative. We are in a historic moment in time, and startups have a huge opportunity to monetize the AI, the technology, and to improve their business models using that technology. And I know in some cases, AI can wipe out some businesses and some startups. And I know that's what today's topic is all about is AI going to kill your startup or is it going to make it better? I know I was driving Michelle with my son who was just graduating from architectural school and ChatGPT had come out and we started playing with DALI and doing renderings of buildings through words. And then it occurred to us, wow, if it can do this, could it also not reverse engineer and design all of the architectural elements within a home based on best practices, locations, and whatnot? And he got really nervous. He says, what did I just do? Spent 3 years of my life doing architecture and this technology could wipe it out? Now, to be clear, the technology is not there. It's not even close, but it may be coming. And I said to him, I said, well, you know what you're good at, and you're good at design, you're good at understanding certain scenarios based on properties, and you can apply that technology and actually go even further. Develop your own architectural designs and study and specialize in a particular area like vacation rentals. Ironically, there's a lot of unique things about vacation rentals that you can do with certain architectural designs. So instead of running away from the technology, instead of just giving up, embrace it and figure out how you can benefit from it. And eventually, you'll actually accelerate and be in a stronger position versus being in a situation where you're just simply being replaced. If you're in the audience and you like to discuss AI and how it's impacting your startup, or if you feel it's going to kill startups or jobs, come on stage. We really want to have you up here. It's an open conversation today, open mic, and we enjoy this topic every time we bring AI up. It's always a very interesting topic. The fact of the matter is, AI has now hit the mainstream, and as Jeffrey Moore once talked about, how do you benefit from how do startups benefit from a technology adoption at a rate that's happening with something like AI? And he talks about this concept called a tornado. And for the most part, those who can deliver the fastest and the easiest and make it available to more people than others in a tornado tend to win in that marketplace. So you've got to move fast and you got to be able to deliver your product quickly into the marketplace with broad distribution. All right, Michelle, any other thoughts before we open it up?
Yeah, I would just encourage everyone, like we said, raise your hand. We want it to be an active conversation. But I'm going to kick it off, Colin. Will it kill or make your business? I'm going to put out there that I think everybody would agree, there's a lot of opportunities for all kinds of businesses. But I would say you put your business at risk if you're not keeping up and you're not embracing AI in some form. I'm sure there's exceptions to that, but what I'm thinking specifically, or even if it's an e-commerce company, like why wouldn't you like embrace using AI for customer service? I feel like there's a lot of little areas in the beginning, especially that could help people, kind of gain a competitive edge, even if it's in companies or professions where they say AI is could potentially negatively affect, like accounting and finance. I think we all should be thinking about this and planning how we can embed it so that we actually don't get left behind, Colin. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. And I think we talked about with Startup Club the idea of actually adding some tech AI into the club. For two concepts we've been bouncing around. One is Business Plan AI. We actually got the domain name businessplanai.com, and we're looking at through prompt engineering, spending the hours and working with a developer to launch this product so that you can actually go online on Startup Club and write a business plan just by answering a series of questions, and it will produce a document that you can now show investors. Of course, there are certain legal standards and whatnot that you still need to address and work with a law firm on. But we think this is a good way of just sort of helping small businesses or startups, to helping them with getting started on their business and helping them to develop that business plan, which sometimes can be daunting and a little bit complicated for a new business. The other technology we talked about was creating a sandbox around all of the sessions that we've had here on Serial Entrepreneur Secrets Revealed, uh, and inserting the transcripts from those sessions combined with other sessions that we've recorded on Clubhouse. We've got hundreds and hundreds of sessions combined with the manuscript for the book Start, Scale, Exit, Repeat, which is a Forbes published book coming out October 3rd that we're putting out, and take all of that information and feed it into the AI and create a sandbox around it so that when somebody goes to Startup Club AI, they can actually ask a question. Oh, I'm exiting my business. How do I do that? Oh, and then it's going to start to pull in information from the experts in the community of Startup Club. So we've bounced around these ideas. Like, we're starting to come up with things and ideas. And in your startup, are you thinking of any of these ideas? What are you thinking about doing to help your members, to help your customers, with their whatever you sell them? What are you thinking of doing? And I'm curious from you, Augustin. And thanks again
Yeah,
for coming up. You're a new and fairly new to Clubhouse, but quite active, and we appreciate your participation.
thank you, Colin. Thank you, Michelle. Both areas that you guys focus on, embracing, I think, is the word. I was thinking about it before you said it. Um, it's a value added, and you have to incorporate it into your startup right now, regardless of the size of the startup. Some startups have had to retrench because of the economics. And in our company, it was interesting. We have a Friday huddle, and we talked about our development. Where do we want to go? I support the operations and service end of it. So, with multiple products out there, um, we are thinly stretched, and we have a lot of inbound queries. One of the things that we are taking advantage of, having a database of information throughout the past couple of years that we provided our products, we're taking it to the next level, incorporating AI, bringing in a respective chatbot approach to look at the internal information that we have and automatically, create the responses to our client base. Today, we work with templated responses. I am one that I'll take it out there and I'll post a question in English. I'll simplify the response, and then I'll go ahead and request the Spanish translation because we have both types of members that use our products. So, in order to stay competitive in the marketplace, provide prompt responses that are, let's say, the word true, because we have to be very careful of going out to the web and pulling information that may not be as accurate as we may think it is. And us having our internal data for our products, we know that that information is solid without having to look outbound because it's what we provide our customers. So from that perspective, it just resonates that every session that we have working across the lines of business, and it's not just on the technology side, it helps us focus on how we're going to reach out to our customer base, which is obviously a revenue forefront. And this will allow us to, one of the things that we focus on a lot is retention. You have to retain your customers. So, from that perspective, just wanted to throw that out there because right now, that's where we're at with our organization. And we see that if we focus on specific ways, streams for AI integration in some areas, not all areas, uh, we're going to continue to have that competitive edge. Thank you.
Yeah, I can't agree more with you. I think that's bang on. I know at paw.com we've begun to use more offshore support labor from Philippines, and we ask them when they respond to a query to use ChatGPT and make it more positive. So we're trying to institutionalize the idea of positive communication responses within the organization, and you can actually use ChatGPT to do that as well. And then also even those for your chatbot, just creating those answers, you can sometimes use ChatGPT to help you with those responses as well. You know, sometimes you write it out yourself, and then you can have ChatGPT clean it up or make it more positive. Michelle?
Yeah, I love it. And one area we found is it helps us actually see if we're missing something big when we're writing whatever, a press release or just some copy. There's just so many ways to use it. But I want to get to the next member because this is a rather rich topic and would love to hear, you know, businesses or areas that you think it will also hurt your companies too, in addition to helping them. So let's go to Gabo. Gabo, you're up.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, what I wanted to share is that I find difficult how companies not being aware. Sorry, I won't start again. I'm in the mining industry, so there's a challenge in the mining industry to train their own personnel. Many of the mines rely on suppliers and manufacturers to train their personnel. But now that with those AI tools, not in mining specifically because it's a different kind of business, I think, but in competitive markets, in retail and other, I think that companies should invest in their people and training them on the AI tools because it seems overwhelming. So many AI tools that come up every day, and which one to pay for, which one to start training. Our people still need to learn how to code. I mean, there is so much information that it's difficult for employees to know how to prepare to stay competitive. So, and I agree with the question. It will kill the businesses that don't train and don't have the best people. Thank you.
You know, just for fun, I just took the last show's transcripts. And I've tried this in the past and it didn't work because it didn't seem to be able to handle the length. And I still don't know it handled it perfectly. Okay. But the last show was 18 ways businesses can save money. And I just took that transcript right now and I popped it into ChatGPT and I said, write it New York Times style. And it did a pretty good intro, went all the way down to number 17, and it looks phenomenal, by the way. And I know Mimi does a lot of the writing. And I'd be curious from you, Mimi, have you been starting to use ChatGPT as you put together these summaries for these shows? But I think it actually worked really, really well. And we should consider utilizing it a little bit more if we haven't already done so that we can turn these shows into articles as well, because some people do like to consume through reading. I know very few people, but it took all of 1 minute to do it and was able to produce, very nicely done 17 of the 18 ways businesses can save money. Mimi, I'm just curious from you, have you been using ChatGPT yet to
Yes, I've been
help
using
you
it
with this?
to kind of get like kind of the bones of a blog post and then have to put it together myself and put like kind of our own voice on it. But I also think it's great for like smaller things like getting podcast notes together or social media captions, things like that that don't take too long, but just little tasks that add up. I think it's great for productivity like that.
Okay, I'm just typing in create podcast notes now. And so I think it's possible to do a lot more shows, record and syndicate through the podcast channel from Clubhouse through this technology, I actually think. So we should consider that. Yeah, this time it gave me 18 and a whole conclusion. I don't know. Yeah, it's amazing. Absolutely amazing. All right. Well, thank you, Gabo and Naomi. Welcome to Clubhouse. We love new members. We'd love to get your thoughts on, is AI killing or your startup, or are you using it to help you accelerate your startup? Naomi, and the mute is on the bottom right corner. We'll give you a second there to find it. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to hear from new members. If not, we'll give you a moment here to figure that out, and we jump down to you, Mark. You're up next.
Hello, hello, howdy.
Hello.
Hey, how are you
Oh,
guys
we got
doing?
Naomi. We got her on, Mark. So let's give her a chance. Welcome to Clubhouse and Startup Club, by the way. So Naomi, we'd love to hear from you on this topic about AI.
Um, Hello. Well, the thing is, I just joined this group today and now, so I had to get what is going on then before I can chip in anything.
All right, we're having a little hard time hearing you. If you could speak up a little bit, that would be great. Thank you.
What I'm saying is, I'm just joining this group for the first time, so I don't really know what is going on. So I just had to keep quiet for a while to get to know what is going on then before I can say anything.
Sounds good. We'll come back to you if you want to jump on later. Let us know. Mark, thanks
No
for coming on
problem.
stage. We'd love to hear from you.
Oh, no problem. I'm glad to be here. Uh, I saw the title and I said, "Hey, wonder what these guys are doing over here." But yeah, I've been in the AI space since 2014. I was building products for Department of Defense, and then later on, when OpenAI came out with their beta program, I signed up for the beta program and was able to get in that program in 2021. And I've been building in the platform ever since. So I'm actually working on a podcast show note product in the space where we take the podcast audio and convert it into show notes. We generate titles, summaries, key points, we grab quotes, and we print out the outline of the episode with timestamps. So that's what I've been working on for the last 2 years, and it's been
Wow.
fun.
Wow. All right, you're our new best friend, Mark. And Mimi and I would love to know when you start to release this. Yeah, well, sign us up as beta testers, okay?
Uh,
But
we'll
I
go
have
on.
one question.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no. I'm just curious. You said it's been 2 years. I'm curious to understand. Um, I, I'm not saying that's too long, but why do you think it took 2 years? Like, what are the barriers, good and bad and ugly, that you have faced? And I'm just curious, what you would recommend to other people that are trying to evolve or build a business so that they can kind of get out there fast, like we were talking about. What are your thoughts on that, Mark?
Yeah. Honestly, I think the first year, um, I made the mistake of getting in my own way. Me being an engineer, I wanted to build a lot of it, and I think it's a lot of that's one of the common mistakes engineers make in business. It was like we try to build most of it ourselves. But I realized I'm not a young engineer anymore, and I can actually pay somebody to do this stuff, which was the greatest benefit because the second I started paying somebody to do it. We launched our beta, uh, and what was it? It was last May we were able to launch our beta. So it was like 6 months of me programming. And then I said, screw this, let me go hire somebody. And then we launched our beta last year in April. And then right around November, December timeframe, ChatGPT gets released and we start growing really quickly left and right. So it's been great. But also with that, we have new competitors left and right. I believe this month alone, we added 3 new competitors. So I keep track of them. I think the list is up to like 17 now. But I mean, it's been a fun space. So the challenge really isn't so much. I mean, there's a small learning curve, but if you're building a business and you're not like building on the platform, but you're building through Chat GPT and you want to build an agency of some sort, I think that barrier to entry is really low. I think there's a lot of tools and services that exist right now that have removed a barrier to entry to make it easier for you. Like, for example, even with my service, there are agencies that are coming on board that are using this service to expand their agency. Um, People in non English speaking markets are now able to access English speaking markets because there's a lot of differences in the languages that they didn't get that they now have open access to, thanks to these third party applications that are leveraging OpenAI. So I think the barriers that existed earlier are becoming more and more reduced as the time goes on. I just so happen to be one of those people who just cuts my fingers and bleeds over the early tech because I got in early.
Yeah, you did scare me a little bit there, though, when you talked about AI and the Department of Defense. And I think I saw a movie about that.
I can't talk about that
Terminator 3,
stuff.
Terminator 4. I don't think maybe we don't want AI being brought into the Department of Defense.
It's already
Anyway, I'm just joking.
there.
It's already there. It's too late. It's too late. Just, enjoy the time we have left. Exactly. All right. Yeah, it's funny you talk about language. I think that's also an opportunity, where there are so many talented people in this world, and English may have been a barrier where it no longer is. Someone can provide excellent content and have it rewritten and even myself, by the way, I'm no great writer. I mean, we spent 10 years writing a book, so trust me, it takes me a while to really do this stuff. But the fact of the matter is, I can go on to ChatGPT with my sort of rough version of something and just run it through that. And if it makes sense, edit, change it, or whatever. I do find that, as I publish Forbes articles now, and I do find that when I tried to do that with the articles, they sound more stale and boring. I think my writing style is a little more staccato and a little bit more. I don't know if I'm doing it wrong. I might be asking the wrong questions. So I,
Might
I
be. I
tend to
think so.
stuck with my original style. Yeah, Mark. So what are you thinking?
So, I've been experimenting with that lately. I have a coach that I've been working with, and I said, let's record a session, and that's what I want to do because I'm like, you want to work on this book, and you're working on writing material, and she's like, a lot of the stuff that I say in my sessions, this is what she was telling me, a lot of stuff that I say in my sessions, is really good content, but I when I sit down to write, it doesn't really carry over the same way. I say, you know what, let's do this, let's have a conversation and we'll talk about this stuff. And then we'll record it and say Otter, or in our case, we were using Firefly's AI. And then I said, let's take the transcript from our conversation. And then, I mean, because I'm the developer, I have a little bit more that I have access to. But I said, let's run it into Chat GPT. But it was a little bit different because I ran it through, what is it called? Pinecone. But there's a plugin for Chat GPT that allows you to add memory, but I know how to build it, so I did. So we ran it through a plugin. We took our conversation, took the transcript, plugged it in, and then I said, okay, now that we have a conversation plugged in memory, now let's go prompt and ask ChatGPT about the conversation and see if we can pull some content out. And the content that we pulled out was amazing. And I'm like, look, you have an outline. If you did this for every hour of conversation you had, you would have an outline for a new book. And it would be so helpful that this outline would just help you write because you have all the memory of the conversation you had and you can just pull from it. Oh, I was talking about this thing. What are your thoughts? You literally prompting the AI, what are your thoughts on this topic and the way I was talking about it? Do you have any ideas how I can make this more charismatic if I was to start writing on this? And the outputs were amazing. So I think for anyone who's writing, who's creating book content, I think another level is taking the actual, like taking your thoughts and transcripts of audio and plugging that in to really outline your ideas.
Yeah, it's interesting because I never had the opportunity to use ChatGPT during the writing of the book, Start, Scale, Exit, Repeat, which is coming out October 3rd. We had to submit the manuscript in November. But working in February, we had to come up with the cover. And I actually took the introduction of the book, I put it into ChatGPT, and I said, write the inside cover of a best-selling book and reasons why someone would want to buy this book. And honestly, it was phenomenal. and I used 80 to 90% of that for the inside cover flap. So I'm happy to say there is some uh, AI when it comes to the book itself. And it's funny, actually. But in any case, thank you, Mark, and good suggestions. James,
Hi,
you've
Colin.
been patient.
Yeah, good. I was in here last week and had some great conversations with you all and Javier, Xavier and several others. It was great. As part of sort of answering your first question about how it's affecting my business, I want to give you a suggestion because that's what I'm looking at vectoring my business into is of being a consultant on these things. Because I think there's a lot of need for it. And one suggestion I have for you, Colin, on your writing is if you're getting this sort of stale output, start with a uh, brand new chat and build a chat up from the beginning, which maybe you've already done, where you're telling it about yourself. And then give it samples of your writing. And then say, given this chat, please rewrite this stale article in my own tone of voice. Have you ever tried something like that?
I have not. That's something that would be very interesting.
Yeah,
Yes.
have it learn. And so I think that,
Wow. Great idea. I love
I think
it.
that the bigger theme there, the thing that I've learned is that if you are using ChatGPT in what the AI people call zero shot mode, that is where you're just loading it up and giving it a prompt. They call it that because you don't have any context. It's just right away. They call it a zero shot. But you get somewhat cool results. But to the extent that you can give feedback to build up the model, even to correct what it was telling you in whatever domain you're doing, what you're doing, it will become so much more powerful. I mean, I've gotten it to where I've recently did a project to write code that's very advanced to do 3D graphics in the browser. It's called WebGL with shaders. It's really technical, about as technical as computer programming gets. And I'm not an expert in that language or those technologies. And I was able to build up a whole app that does very advanced things by doing the whole thing with ChatGPT, where I ended up having about 400 pages of text when I was done, where I was doing things like saying, okay, that didn't work, but here's the output that I'm getting from the profiler, which is tracing what's happening on the GPU. What do you see is happening in there? And it would say, I see the problem. And to the extent that I could keep giving it output from what it tells me, it would reinforce it to where after a couple hundred pages, I've got this real expert working by my side.
All right. I think you're putting us all to shame, James. Like, I feel like I need to spend some time here. I'm looking at your bio. You've done some amazing things with algorithms and Bitcoin and trading. Like, it looks like you're an expert in this area. So, like, how is this, how is AI really going to affect? Do you feel like this is good for the market? Or do you feel like it's going to continue to give, let's just say, privileged people more of a benefit? Like, I'm very curious about your input, how it affects more than, we talk a lot about copy and whatnot, but how does it affect people's ability, for example, to play the market, to do things that are more sophisticated? Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Is it the big companies are going to prevail or us little people lose? Like, what are your thoughts on
Those are
this?
big questions, Michelle. Those are huge questions. And I think in general, I think this is if I were to guess, and we're going to go forward, let's say 3 years, 3 to 5 years, I think what we're going to see is a different set of people are going to have the quote unquote privilege, in that these people are the ones that have learned to lay hold of these things in a creative, interesting way. And it's not necessarily the people that have the degrees, even the technical degrees, or necessarily that control the money. I wouldn't be surprised if some of the most interesting and powerful things get created by people that are currently 13, 14 years old, because they just start to think in these terms. Like any industry that you're in, the power of this is so great. For example, my wife and I are looking at relocating. We moved down to Mexico recently for the purpose of lowering our burn rate. We're a startup, etc. But now we're ready to go back. And so I'm now using ChatGPT with the plugins that they have. There's Zillow, there's one that gives census data, and I'm able to say, tell it, here's what I'm like as an entrepreneur, here's what we are like as people. We'd like to move a place with the following criteria. What do you think of this place in Arizona or this place in California? And minutes later, it's returning me live listings that meet my exact criteria. So if I were in real estate, and I learned how to do that on behalf of my customer, you're going to just clean the clocks of all the people that don't. So, I mean, I think there's going to be a big shift as a few people realize relative to the market that they can do great, powerful things with this. And I also think there's going to be a massive panic across the entire industry of industries when companies at every level realize that they need to make this transition or they're going to fail if they're not one of the people that lay hold of it. So I think it's going to be very tumultuous.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Can I
very.
get in line to speak too, please?
No, go ahead. Somebody wanted to go. Who was it?
Yeah, this is Jason. Just after, I don't see. In my opinion, there's only two. I've been saying this. This doesn't change the two main problems in the world. Number one is lack of knowledge. Number two is abuse of power. So only two problems in the world. If somebody want to prove me else otherwise, it's the same thing that happened. I worked at Microsoft Internet, running one of their websites in '98 and '99. Same thing people said about the dot-com bubble. Same thing. Every single thing. I know this is a little bit different, but still, people that take action can take action and make use of it. Same thing as programming, same thing as everything else. The people that don't take action, they'll wonder what happened to the people take action. Some people are going to abuse it. Some people are going to use it for good. Why is that any different? This is Jason. I'm done speaking.
Hey guys, can I jump in for a sec?
Go for it.
Hey guys, Lucas, thanks for inviting me up to stage. So just wanted to share a little bit of my experience with ChatGPT. Is that I follow a mantra that I call useful GPT. I try not to go down rabbit holes too much, and I try to use it for things that are really actually effective for my business and save me time, energy, and money. And I've launched my business is launching a new piece of software, and I've used ChatGPT now for several weeks to write all the Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, blog, and HubSpot emails for my entire brand. Not trying to shill, but if anybody wants to check it out, it's ArcRunner, ARKRUNR, on Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And the way I treated ChatGPT is I basically gave it an agency brief. And I've hired a lot of agencies in my life, and I've spent a lot of money with everything from small agencies to some pretty big ones. So I know the kind of work that an agency outputs in general. And I know how to write a brief. So I pay my $20 a month for ChatGPT, for GPT-4, which makes a huge difference. And I basically gave it a brief. I said, here is a whole bunch of information about my company. Here's a whole bunch of information about the product that we're releasing. Here's sort of a brain dump of different thoughts on the product. And then here are several writing samples of the kind of things that we want to do. And then I was like, okay, now you're my social media marketing manager. Yeah, I gave it a role. You're my social media and marketing manager, and I want you to answer everything that I'm going to ask you with the overarching goal of driving these particular calls to action, with driving these particular goals. Now that you have all that information, now that you basically have a brief, great. Now write me 10 Instagram posts for the next 10 days, 10 Twitter posts, 4 LinkedIn posts on these subjects, these blog posts, et cetera, et cetera. And I told GPT for Instagram, for instance, I said, put it into for Instagram, I told GPT, put this into 4 columns of markdown. Column 1 is the date, column 2 is the text of the post, column 3 is whether it should have a video or an image attached with it, and column 4 is the description of what should be in the video or image, because I'll go create that, right? And then it did it, and it's very good at it. And then I say write LinkedIn posts and write blog posts around this, with what you know of the company. Write kind of this general subject and highlighting these particular points, and it does a fantastic job. And now that I have access to the browsing plugin and some other stuff in GPT-4, I say, okay, go to this Twitter account, go read this Twitter account, and go read these websites. Add that to your general knowledge base and incorporate those learnings into your posts for next week. And then I also, separately from GPT-4, I go into analytics on the posts that it just wrote. I see which ones performed the best, and then I take those back to GPT and I say, okay, of those 10 Instagram posts that you wrote last week, these 3 performed the best. So now, in your next 10 Instagram quotes, take that knowledge into account and write your next 10 Instagram posts knowing that these 3 performed the best. And I am getting, first of all, it's very, very good in its writing. As anybody knows, I think that's done any of this work, editing is a lot easier than creating. So I almost always have to edit a little bit. It's almost never perfect coming out of GPT-4, but what would normally take me, I don't know, 6 or 7 hours to write all this stuff now takes me 10 minutes. And with the metrics that I'm getting and with feeding GPT what it's doing well at and saying use that to inform what's next, I'm getting actually on my metrics reports out of Buffer and HubSpot and all that crap out of my traditional platforms. I'm getting measurable, absolutely measurable metrics improvements. So I know that it's working. So, and tying back to the agency thing, then I'll shut up. I've hired a lot of agencies. I know what they output, and what I'm getting out of ChatGPT right now. Again, considering that I know how to write a brief, ChatGPT is very much GIGO, garbage in, garbage out. You give it good stuff, you're going to get good stuff. So I'm getting about the quality of what I would normally spend, I don't know, $5,000 to $10,000 a month at an agency. And in addition to all the other stuff the agency would be doing, if an agency was handling all my LinkedIn, if any agency was handling all my LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, blog, and email for a newly launched software brand, that's $5,000 to $10,000 a month at a reasonable agency. So that $5,000 to $10,000 a month now, I am spending elsewhere. I'm doing that myself, and I still have an agency, but they're able to focus on other more important shit that ChatGPT really can't do, and that Midjourney and DALL-E and the image generation engines really can't do. Because I use Midjourney for a lot of image generation. I'm a very good prompt writer for Midjourney, but what Midjourney and DALL-E and all the AI systems suck at is style. They can't follow a style guide. They're great at idea generation. I mean, storyboard artists need to find another line of work. I'm sorry, but that's just true. Storyboard artists, that career is basically gone. But if you want to, what it's really not good at is, hey, here's a style guide. I have fonts, I have colors, I have messages, I have rules. Midjourney, follow that. Midjourney can't, none of the AI art engines can do that. Great for idea generation, shitty for actual style. So that's what I call useful GPT, and that's how Chat GPT is really actually significantly impacting my time and my business. Thanks.
Wow, that's awesome. Well said on all of that. I do very similar things, and I think you're totally on to the most powerful ways to use this.
Yeah, and I love Lucas when you were saying that. I almost thought, yeah, he's treating Chat GPT as though having a conversation that he would have with an employee, right? Like you're for lack of better words, maybe like you're making it your servant, and it's like an employee, and you're giving them very specific directions. So I think that's fantastic, and I do love the tip that I think both you and James said, and build on the responses. It really is all about the prompts, which I think is fantastic, and that is a whole career, for us out there that are like, oh my gosh, my job's going away. Like I think you're right, like James had said, like the more creative you can get, the better you're going to get, and the more detail. So
A friend of mine who's sort of a mid-level account exec at an agency, just launched they're doing what I do. They're doing what I do, except professionally and full time. They just branched off and have now launched at their own one-person shop to do social media management, because by using ChatGPT well, instead of handling maybe 2 accounts a week on their own, they can handle 20, right? So learning how to use Chat GPT and learning how to use it effectively, people complain that it's going to eliminate jobs. Yes, it will. It will absolutely eliminate jobs. But I've seen so many technology shifts come and go. And technology shifts in general are a net zero thing. Jobs are lost and jobs are gained. So it's just a question of which jobs are lost and who has to adapt and grow and learn and change.
Well, I think from
I agree with that. That's the point that I was making. Thank you. That's I'm done speaking. Yeah, that was. I don't know. Can you hear me? I have the red bar.
Could be my internet because I'm on Starlink here on the islands, and but you're not really coming in there, Jason. From my perspective, if I'm not coming in, Michelle, cut me off.
No, you're coming
But
in perfectly, Colin. I think Jason had a connectivity issue. Go
okay,
ahead.
got it. So like I think what I've learned from James and Lucas here is really this idea of, see, I'm like a, I don't want to say this phrase 'cause I'm gonna get in trouble, right? A premature ejaculator. I said it, all right? So I go in, I'm like, I want something real fast. Bing, 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 and it just doesn't come out quite right, right? So what I'm trying to say is that, like, what I've learned here is, okay, we really have to, if I really want this style, I really have to teach it the style first, feed it this writing style, and say, okay, reproduce it in this style. And this is much more setup to do this than I realized. That I just keep thinking I want to get results instantly by feeding it, write this like in a New York Times reporter, blah blah blah, and I'm not happy with the results. So
Oh,
I
Colin.
definitely have to play with it a little bit better. And
Colin,
Yeah.
I don't
what?
know. I don't know. I don't
But
know where we start with that. All right, let's
did you
move
bleep that
on.
one?
Let's
Did you
move
bleep that one?
on. Yes, we
Okay.
did. We did.
All right.
But yeah, I'm the person that loves to load up queries. And I just think, oh my gosh, I saw some adverts for people looking for, expert um, response query writers. And I thought, oh my gosh, that could be the most amazing job. I love the level of creativity. And for me, I think it gives hope. Quite honestly, I'm tired of writing boring copy, and it's makes me excited that we could do better and
Well,
more.
I think
Thanks.
also ChatGPT is like the way I think of it is either as the world's most eloquent toddler or as an intern, right? An intern. I grew up. My first career was as an audio engineer, and interns and audio engineers. You don't say, "Go get me a cup of coffee." You say, "Go to the Starbucks on the corner. Get me a vanilla latte. Get me a grande vanilla latte, extra hot." And be back in less than half an hour. If it's going to take more than half an hour, go to the 7-Eleven instead and just get me black coffee in a styrofoam cup. But whatever you do, be back in half an hour. You have to give it incredibly specific instructions. Otherwise, you're going to have an intern that goes to a different city and comes back with a cup of coffee at 4 in the afternoon. You're going to be like, "Where the hell were you?" You're like,
From
"Well, I was getting you a cup of
7-Eleven.
coffee."
Yeah.
So anyway,
Oh, but that's
I
a
think the
fantastic
biggest issue.
analogy.
I think the biggest issue. There's way too many interns in the world, and way too few people that are telling the interns what to do. So it's going to be the same problem. I run 3 corporations, right? I None of my people in my family run one. That's the problem. There's very few people that are actually leaders, starters, right? So I hear people now to say, "Oh, get ChatGPT, baby, get ChatGPT to get you to write a book." Here's the problem: if you don't have the initiative to write a book, if you get AI to write a book for you, it's still not your book. So here's the problem. I'm trying to understand why it's so hard for people to decide to do something. So if you get AI to do something that you could not decide to do, what is it? You're not deciding to do it. So the problem is there's very few people that take initiative and start things and want to learn new things. The people that want to learn new things, they're always going to learn the new thing, the new thing, the new thing. They're not going to have a problem. The people that don't want to learn new things are on dinosaurs right now. They're already dead. This is Jason. I'm done speaking.
Wow. I agree. It's personalities, right? But, we have about 15 minutes left of this session. And I want to make sure we give a few other people a chance to go here. We've got Edna. Edna, it's always nice to have you on stage. And then let's go to Roland. And then I think, I'm loving this discussion. We can keep going for a little bit longer and, do popcorn style. But let's get through a few other folks. Edna.
Hey, Michelle. Great to see y'all. As usual, this is such a great topic. I'm not an expert in this area, as you well know. I'm more in the energy space, but I can see where this is going to be so helpful to, maybe send a message to AI and say, can you help me come up with a process or a procedure for something that we're doing and then implement that? And so I think it's a great, great topic. But I do want to say if you're in the room and you have not joined the Startup Club, definitely do so. Click on the top, join the club. I see a lot of, I see some folks down at the bottom that have invitations. Go ahead and sign up. And also go to the website at www.startup.club. It's the link up at the top. And you'll find some fascinating information. These rooms are held every week by Colin, Michelle, and the Startup Club team. And you can find archives of some amazing subject matter that maybe you're looking for something, maybe you're looking for a solution, you'll find it there. But as always, Michelle, Colin, great to be here. Happy to see you guys, always supporting. And thanks for holding such a great space and sharing your wisdom and your knowledge with us. Really do appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Edna. And it is interesting. A number of the sessions we've have had on some pretty big speakers. Just last night, uh, we had the founder of Reebok, and we celebrated his 88th birthday party. He flew in Fort Lauderdale, and we got to know him through him speaking on the app, and then he spoke on this show, Serial Entrepreneur Secrets Revealed. If you go back and you search for Joe Foster, you can catch that episode. And there have been so many other authors. And by the way, we have probably about 25, 30 other experts, authors that we want to bring on this show. And we're going to be announcing them. One we just announced recently, Manny Ohm, who's going to cross his 10 millionth shoe. He's from Africa. He put together a new factory to build shoes, and he's given away 10 million shoes over, and it took 19 years for him to meet his goal. And he's going to talk about the mountain that we all have to achieve and how we can set up base camps along the way. Climb the hill and then conquer the mountain. And so that's what he's coming on June 2nd and thereabouts. And thank you, Edna, for reminding me of that. There's so many great episodes. And if you just go to your favorite podcast channel, search for Serial Entrepreneur Secrets Revealed, you can pick that up. But thank you very much, Roland. It's always a pleasure to have you here as well. So you want to share with us your thoughts about will AI actually kill startups or help startups?
Hey, Colin, great to see you. Sorry, I came in late. I missed a large part of this discussion. Uh, here are my 2 cents on this, right? When I think of a job, I think of a job as a combination of tasks. So, will AI kill jobs? Yes, it will kill jobs where the job is focused on a single task. If the job requires different tasks where different capabilities are brought into play, meaning when I think of capabilities, I'm thinking rational, emotional, cognitive, then the chance of being disrupted by AI is not immediate. Doesn't mean it won't happen, it means it will take longer for that to happen. And then when you think of a company is really, or a startup is really a combination of different jobs, in essence, multiple different tasks. The question then becomes, how do those tasks come together? And what is the different workflow that is used? And there again, it really depends on, what those tasks are and how they come together and whether they are immediately disruptible by AI. So I think what we really are going through in an initial phase is a greater degree of decoupling. Now, in some cases, we will have more creative and innovative recoupling of those tasks and jobs. In other cases, they might be completely disrupted because to start with, they were adding little value. Back to you.
Go ahead. So I think that's right on, Roland. Thank you very much. And Mark, I know you went. Jason went. I think the last one, and then we can go popcorn style.
But
CM
I
Seum.
think the way
Thanks.
Roland broke that down was like
Go ahead.
really, the people here are members. You guys have so much to offer, and I really appreciate the way you broke that down, Roland, because that means more opportunities for people, and it also should give people opportunity to refactor their job if they're worried, right? If you look at it at that level, there becomes a lot more opportunity in ways to use this kind of technology. Thank you, Roland. Um, and I want to head over. Siam, I see you've been very active in the chat, and we're very anxious to hear your thoughts on this as well.
Cool, cool. How's everyone doing? I joined the club a while back, but I'm not as active because I'm working on the startup I'm at. What was the initial prompt? I'd love to just start there and not be disrespectful to any of the thoughts already given.
What was the initial thought?
A prompt,
Well, I
prompt.
think, you know,
Like, how did I didn't?
pro-
I came in like in the last 15 minutes, so I'm trying to be respectful.
oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah, is that we would have an open conversation, an open mic, just talking about areas of business that AI will help you make it, be
Hmm.
better or kill your business. Maybe your complete business or specific area or tasks. It's an open conversation for folks to share.
Okay. I think I'll jump to what Mark, uh, what I was trying to communicate with Mark. So I love OpenAI as a brand, but when we talk about the technology, which that component, the literacy, just like how it was in 1998, we need a lot more people who understand the literacy behind the technology. A GPT, which is a generative pre-trained transformer, all it can do is guess the words you're at. And if you want something like Chat GPT, if you want something like that product, there are literally 14 different open source models you can download right now and train on your computer, and you don't have to pay. And the reason I'm saying that, because as a startup, sure, you can pay for GPT-4. That's cool beans. There are guardrails in place. Maybe you don't want it to know your profanity. But what we're trying to do over here at Solace Vision, which is we're looking at text to 3D. Is there a way to communicate a 3D object for your next movie production, your next video game, movie, or music video? We're looking at ways to combine that because that technology exists. And the funny thing was, I remember hearing a little bit listening that a lot of individuals think that companies like Google, like Anthropic, like Nvidia, Intel have a large advantage because of their servers, their legacy, or just money. And what we're seeing in the AI space is that that's not true. It wasn't a leaked document that showed people this. It was performance, literal performance. There's a video, and I'm just going to keep it succinct here, called "The AI Dilemma," created by the Center for Humane Technologies. Steve Wozniak gets on the podium and introduces two individuals who talk about the AI dilemma. We're entering an era where through your MRI scans, I can know what you're looking at and read your inner thoughts, your inner dialogue, the voice in your head. This technology, coupled with the open source nature and evolution that AI brings, I mean, experts didn't think we'd get here 5 years from now, and we are yesterday. So maybe when we have more time, I'll come back to share more things. But I think everyone should read, learn more, use the technology, obviously, even if you're an artist and you're against the ethical dilemmas like the lawsuit against Midjourney and DeviantArt that hasn't settled yet regarding copyright. Because that's the other thing. Just because the tech is cool doesn't mean there aren't consequences. We'll all get there eventually. It's just for right now, best time is to dive in, get your feet wet. That's the only thing I have to say, really.
Sorry there, I was just texting James something there, back channeling you, James, around an idea we can
Oh,
do a
right on.
show with Bitcoin. Yeah, I think you had a lot of experience in that area. And Sam, like I love the fact that you've got this sort of differing sort of perspective, and you're opening our eyes up to a whole other thought process around this space. I mean, it's incredible. I feel like today the people in the community here have really come together and just really have done like really just put together a good show, and the level of understanding of the technology and whatnot far exceeds my own. So I just really appreciate that. Let's go popcorn style. like, we've got 5 minutes left, and just any last comments, any last thoughts from anyone on stage, just throw it out there. If you take yourself off mute, you're up next. Mark?
Yeah. So, I agree with CM for the most part. But the thing that's going to happen is, well, the thing that will happen is, you'll have the people who are going to really push it are the people who are downloading it and taking these open source models and training them, and I've said, like, this time next year we'll have high schoolers going through this process and, like, putting out their own models, and training them, because it'll be common knowledge, so much so that you got kids in high school who can do it, and that's where we're going to, right? um, but for the most part, even though this is the most popular product on the planet, the vast majority of the population still has no clue what it is, and their entry to AI, so far, has been open AI. And so, even though I do acknowledge that there's so much out there that's available, um, you know the fact that this has been an entry to people to open their eyes to see that this stuff exists, for a lot of folks who have been developing in this technology for years. The fact that they get to see this exist, I think that's going to create more opportunities, the same way the PC did when people found out, when they had a personal computer, oh, I can do a lot of things that the big companies are doing. Oh, we now have an opportunity for a great equalizer. And so, I think all the open source stuff is great, but Chat GPT might have just been the PC of our times. It's the equalizer to get people an intro into AI, and I like it for what it is, and it's going to help push the conversation forward.
Just wanted to mention a comment that I believe was mentioned earlier by Mark, where he delayed because he wanted to do a lot of things, and that little delay caused to have an incremental of competitors out there. So that's something we should take into account. New tools being offered out there, you want to accelerate, and I go back to what Colin you had mentioned before, the speed that we get out there, time to market, time to revenue. That is actually what's going to let us do our survivals, because now I see that, Mark, you are in the race, you have an advantage, but you have other issues or problems that you may need to take into consideration because they're catching up. And that's where we need to stay prevalent and very vigilant to move ahead with our product.
They're trying to catch up.
Yeah, that's right,
Well
I
Mark.
like
played.
that. They're trying to.
Yeah.
I can offer one thing in line with that, where you're talking about making your own, this idea of making your own models. For a real next level technique that goes beyond ChatGPT, there is a GitHub project called ChatGPT PDF LangChain, LangChain. You have to be a little bit technical to use it, but it's pretty simple. But what it does is you can drop in one or more PDF documents, and what it will do is train an AI model, a GPT-4 based model that is based only on the content of those documents and not anything else. For example, as a experiment with it, I put it in the back channel. I made one. I put the link called where I trained it only on the Bitcoin white paper. The actual document that described
Right,
Bitcoin,
right.
and that I trained it on the references in that document. So you could do this with any academic paper where you have a paper and then references. So I put in about 9 PDFs, and now you can go there and you can ask a question about Bitcoin, and yes, with Pinecone is in there too. That Mark mentioned you have to have a Pinecone account, and it will give you answers only found in that document. So imagine what you could do with this if, let's say, you're dealing with something in the legal domain or in any domain where you have documents, and you can just load them in and have your own model that tells you exactly what those documents say and nothing else, which I think is particularly powerful, as we know how the generalized models can give you all sorts of information you might not want.
Wow. That's power. That's amazing. And I'm looking forward to trying some of this with our team. What do you think, Colin? I think it's getting near the top of our hour, and it's about time to close out, unless we have anyone else that wants to talk, because this is a really a great, informative conversation.
Yeah, I do have to drop off, but it's one of those shows where I realized the more I know, the less I know, right? It's like opened my eyes up so much to understanding that I've only touched the surface of I'm one of those just sort of like easy users, just went in and just started playing with it and didn't realize that there's all these other applications and all these other things that we could really use just to even help Startup Club. Like we talked about a business plan AI.com as part of Startup Club, a free business plan creator, and that's one of the projects. And the other one was the idea of creating a Startup Club AI, which answers questions based on the knowledge base of the transcripts from all hundreds of shows that have been recorded on this club. So we've got some really cool ideas, and I think after today we're going to have to figure out how we can use these other technologies and think a little bit differently in how we approach it. So really appreciate the community here today. I do have to jump off for another meeting, but you can feel free to keep it going, and we will see you next Friday, 2 o'clock Eastern. And by the way, every one of you who came on stage, we love it when you come on stage every week. I know, Roland, you've really been a great contributor. Edna, and our most recent Augustine, and Lucas, of course, James, Jason, CM, every one of you, Mark, amazing, amazing, amazing conversation. I think that sometimes it's better we don't have a guest speaker. We just bring in the community and we all talk about a particular topic and figure it out. Thank you all very much, and we'll see you next week.
Have
Thank
an
you.
amazing weekend. And, I think next week, maybe we'll continue on with this AI conversation and applications, etc. But, again, we can't tell you how much we appreciate your input, and we'll look forward to catching up next week. See you next Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern. Have a wonderful weekend.